On these cold Melbourne days, I have a place that I like to go to. It's not like I go to this place all the time, but if I can go, I like to go. And for me, that place is the NGV. Boom. There we go. The NGV. Anybody like the NGV? Who hasn't been to the NGV? Okay, all right, Fabio, we're gonna have a mandate to the. I love this place. It's so cool. It's just full of art and culture, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite places in Melbourne. If I have tourists who like that kind of thing, they're out of town. I'm like, let's go to the art gallery and we'll see what's there. Um, I have seen so many cool paintings and from famous artists from all around the world in this art gallery. It's actually very high standard for a little Australian art gallery. It's very big by comparison to art galleries around the world. Like we punch above our weight for a small city. I have a question. This is not a part of the message. What is this? What is this? When you walk in, you see this. I don't know if it's indigenous art or a sculpture. Is it like an octopus? If you have the answer, I would love to know. Nobody's been able to tell me what is this. I like it. We could put one in Burwood's foyer. I don't know, but I have no idea what this thing is. I do want to draw your attention to a painting though that you will see when you go into the NGV. It's a small painting, and I remember seeing this painting over the years and being told that this is an important painting. It's a painting of the Dutch master Rembrandt. Anybody familiar with Rembrandt? Okay, some are, many of you aren't. Rembrandt is up there with one of the world's most famous painters of all time. Okay, he's up there with like Van Gogh and like Michelangelo and Leonardo. Like he was from his own time in history, but he's very famous, very well loved, very well respected. And this is his self-portrait. It's a small painting. You can go see it for free at the NGV. But this painting, it just is one out of many paintings this guy did. He was what we call a Dutch master. And the Dutch masters, they painted paintings of the Netherlands through the Netherlands golden era when they had the Dutch East Indies and they were a massive superpower. They had massive naval fleet and they were all around the world. And the Dutch have all of this wealth flowing into the Netherlands, and they're able to afford these beautiful luxuries that even we can't afford today. I mean, Rembrandt's whole career exists because people were wealthy and they wanted to have their portraits painted. And during this time, it's a colonialization season in the Earth's history, and the Dutch are at war with the Spanish. The Spanish don't like what they're doing, and so there's a bit of this sort of war that's going on. And what happens is that during this time, the Dutch, they would establish these standing militia. It wasn't, they didn't have an army. They would have these little towns, and in each little town there'd be a group of men who'd gather and they would form a militia, ready to fight at a moment's notice. If the Spanish were coming, you would call the militia together and you would go and be ready for whatever happened. And these militia groups were very wealthy. They were often made up of the men of influence in the town. All of these people had various trades and jobs, and they could afford some of life's little luxuries. And so they go on and start painting these beautiful pictures of all of these different militia groups. And Rembrandt decides he is going to paint his own militia painting. He gets this commission and he paints this painting. This painting is believed to be his masterpiece. A whole museum was built just to house this painting. It's called the Night Watch. And the Night Watch, it's just famous because it does so many cool art things. You guys ready to learn about cool art things today? You're going to learn about it. So this painting is so cool. It's at the Reich Museum in the Netherlands, and it houses this painting. This painting is bigger than what we've got here on the projector. It's huge. And I wanted to show you some of the cool things that you see. Rembrandt, he's a Dutch master because he knows his trade. He knows how to make a compelling painting, right? So if you have a look at this next slide, he puts these leading lines. These are things that draw your attention to the two people in the center of the picture. All of these, all of these people here are part of the militia, but you've got these leading lines with the rifles and the spear, and they draw you into the middle, right? These two men are the people who are running the militia, okay? Very important, very, important people. They would have loved that he makes everybody focus on them. But that's not all you see in this painting. Rembrandt shows what it would look like for somebody at that time to load a rifle. How cool is that? So you've got these leading lines, but then you've got somebody who's loading a musket, they're firing it, and then they're cleaning it. All there embedded in plain sight. Rembrandt is a true master, and he really knows his craft. He knows how to make a compelling and engaging painting. All of this to say, when you think about the Bible, I have this question. When you think of the artiste, because that's how you say artist when you're cool. When you think of the artiste, David, what would you say was his greatest of all time contribution to us today? When you think of David, the boy who killed Goliath with a stone, the guy who'd become king, what is his greatest gift to our world as far as like an artistic contribution? Every artist has theirs. We're looking at Rembrandt. You might say that for Van Gogh, it's Starry Night or one of his self-portraits. Maybe for Michelangelo, it's the Mona Lisa. But I would argue, and perhaps most of you would agree, but David's most famous piece would be, what is it, Lani? It's got to be Psalm 23, right? Psalm 23. Who's read Psalm 23? Oh, come on. Whoa, what? Come on, what? All right, we are reading it today. I had planned for us to read this. We're going to do some old school church Bible reading. Could you guys read this with me? It's such a beautiful poem. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What a banger. Isn't that such a great poem? Guys, if you haven't read this, what have you been doing? Psalm 23, it's just this beautiful writing. And I don't think any artist ever writes or paints or makes their greatest of all time knowing that this thing will go on to become the greatest thing they'll ever do. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if John wrote chapter 3 and everybody was like, for God so loved the world is going to be the greatest Bible verse of all time. Like, nobody does that. And I don't think David went out to write this with the ambition of making the greatest of all time chapter of scripture. But it seems to be just one of these passages that everybody knows or has heard of in some way, shape, or form. It paints this beautiful picture of a shepherd, a pastor, some might say, and he's looking after the sheep. They are living their best lives in this beautiful, tranquil environment. But guys, just like Rembrandt has details hidden in his masterpiece, so too David has, I won't say it's hidden, it's just a detail we've never really focused on. And I don't know why I've never picked this up. I don't know why I've never focused on it. But guys, hidden in the middle of the psalm, in the middle of this poem, David's greatest of all time, is a geographical feature that I've just never paid attention to. You see, David tells us that right in this beautiful scene that he paints for us with his words, he says there is a valley, right? There's a valley. A valley is very simply an area of lowland between hills or mountains. Did you know that? I'm sure we all knew that. But guys, did you know there's one of those things in Psalm 23? AI helped me change the picture a little, guys, because we're used to seeing this, but maybe we need to think of Psalm 23 a little bit more like this. How does this picture, this greatest of all time passage, change when you start to visualize a valley? When you put a valley in here, it actually changes the whole composition of what this passage could possibly mean. And I want you to sit with that. What does the introduction of this valley mean for you and for me? Psalm 23 begins with this awesome depiction of life. This is where you want to be. This is where life, is at its best. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. David's not saying, I don't want God. That's not what he's saying. He goes, I don't need anything. I am fine. I am happy days. I mean, everything is lovely bubbly, to quote Jamie Oliver. It is just a walk in the park. This is just a great life, right? I don't want anything. God, he's making me lie down in green pastures, man. Who loves to lay? Does anybody have a good lay spot on their home? Like their couch. Anybody have a nice sun spot in their home? You just like to lay and the sun just comes in and hits you and you have a good nap. I wish I had one of those spots. We used to have one of those spots. We don't anymore. But guys, life is so good here, right? There is no wants, right? Life is just reclined. You're just living, this nice posture, okay? God's leading you beside still waters. We know this analogy, perhaps. Sheep don't drink from torrents. The water's got to be still, right? Nice. Everything is just creature comforts here. God is restoring your soul, right? You're just feeling deep and profound, and life's full of discoveries. He's leading you on paths of righteousness. I mean, guys, this is such a great place to be. On this mountain, because guys, I need you to think about this. There are two mountains that are being described here. If there is a valley, it is saying that the shepherd is on one of those mountains. And on the first mountain, it's just great. Life is at its best. The car doesn't break down. The mortgage payments are ahead. We're almost ready to go to Bali and get dreadlocks or whatever you guys do when you go to Bali. I mean, life is so good here. My kids are not in trouble yet. I haven't got a call from Mrs. Catton or Mrs. Steckler. Life is just so good here, right? We want to be on this mountain. We are Western Australian, not Western Australians, but we are Western people who live in the city of Melbourne. Life is beautiful in Melbourne. It used to be, I hope it still is, the most livable city. Let's make Melbourne great again. I shouldn't have said that. That's awkward. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm a Melbourne supporter. But, Melbourne is such a good city, right? Who loves this city? I love this city. I would die for this city. It's one of my favorite places on planet Earth. Love Melbourne. Living here, it's so good, right? I know things aren't as great as people want, but it's still better than most places, right? We are on this beautiful mountaintop here in Australia. But the invitation of David's most profound piece of work is to step into the valley, right? Step into the valley. Who's ready to leave this beautiful place of comfort? You see, on this mountain, it's a place of contentment, it's a place of comfort, and it's a place of completeness. There is no lack, right? There is grass, and it's green, and it's good. There is comfort. We get to lie down. Everything is complete. Everything is as it should be. Our souls are restored. Yeah, everything is in a state of equilibrium. I went on a mission trip many, many years ago as a younger Ryan, and I went on this mission trip. It was a mission trip with Heritage College. And at the time, Heritage had been going to Nepal. And I went on a mission trip with one of the people here. I won't embarrass her anymore, but yeah, it was awesome. I love this trip. But at the end of the trip, we had painted a new school that had been built after an earthquake. We painted it pink because that's what they wanted. But I asked at the end of the trip, well, before I left, but I said, can I just stay on a little bit? Everybody's going to go back to Melbourne. Is it all right if I stay? The teacher's like, sure, Ryan, you stay. So I went hiking the mountains. I loved hiking the mountains of Nepal. If you guys love mountains, you need to go to Nepal. It's cheap. The food is good. You don't need to bring a tent. It's fantastic. So I'm hiking these mountains, and we've been hiking for a couple of days, and we are now at this place. It's called Landruk. Okay, this is Landruk. We've arrived during the day, and it's a little bit cloudy. Can't see everything there is to see, but I'm so glad I have arrived at Landruk. I feel like we're on top of a mountain. Everything is nice here. It's green. I stayed in this place. There's all these little guest houses here. And you know what was even more cool? There are all of these French people there. And we're all sitting down, and they're all like, and I'm just sitting there like, yes, I want to be a part of this. It was wonderful. It was great. And I was just so tired, and I was listening to these people talk about whatever, and we started talking. It was fun. It was just great. And I just wanted to stay in Landruk. But guys, the trip was not to get to Landruk. The trip was to actually go much further than Landruk. But to get to where I needed to go, I need to go to the next town, which is Gandruk. We go from Landruk to Gandruk. And I'm sitting there on this beautiful mountain. There's green grass, there's mountains, there's French people, like what a bonus. And I'm speaking to one of these French people. I'm like, oh, so where have you been? Oh, we've come from Gandruk. Yes, it's wonderful, very nice. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going there tomorrow. Where's Gandruk? Oh, you look over there, up on the hill over there. I'm like, what? Shut your face. I just got to Landruk. I don't want to climb up there, but that's where I have to go. And to get to Gandruk from Landruk, sorry guys, I don't know how you're doing Landruk, Gandruk. I don't know how you're doing that. Landruk is 1,500 meters above sea level. I have to go down to 1,300 meters into the valley. Then I've got to climb up to 2,000 meters just to get there. I mean, who wants to do that? David says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Guys, we can't stay on the beautiful green mountains forever. If you want to get where God is going, sometimes it's going to take, and I'm not going to say sometimes, I'm going to say oftentimes, it's going to take going into a valley. Sometimes it's a valley of our own making. Sometimes it's a valley of somebody else's making. But we all face life's valleys, whether we like it or not. Fortunate for me, only a few years before, some engineers built a bridge. It saved me going all the way down to the bottom of the valley where there is melted snow water. And if I try cross that thing, you would not have a pasta today. So I'm so glad somebody built this. Doesn't this look like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom? Like somebody's about to chop this thing in half and we're all going to die. Like, it's wild. I can't believe I actually crossed this thing, but I did. In David's masterpiece, there is no bridge. There is no bridge across the valley. You've got to make it into this dark place. This place where there is a thing called, there's a shadow of death. I mean, what? That doesn't sound like a nice place. God, why do you want me to go there? I was in green grass. I was lying down. There was water 24/7. That was a nice place. Why would you take me into this horrible, awful looking mess of a situation? I mean, we've all been there, right? And perhaps some of you are in that space right now. Maybe it's a health concern. Maybe it's a spiritual moment of crisis. Maybe there's a familial issue. I don't know what your situation is. Maybe you are doing an engineering degree. Those things break you. Michael got through the engineering degree. He climbed the mountain. I saw these photos, I should have put them up, of people when they start their engineering degree and when they end their engineering degree. Everybody starts bright-eyed and smiling. Everybody finishes with a giant beard and overgrown hair. It just breaks you. But you have to work through it. You have to get through it. What is the valley that God might be calling you into? What is the space that you might be in already? And it feels really hard. I want to revisit a passage that we studied through just for a moment earlier this year. It's James chapter 1. But guys, these words I think are so important because they match the experience of Psalm 23. James says in chapter 1 and verses 2 to 4, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy." I don't look at the mountain from Landrook and I look at Gandrick. I don't see great joy. I see lactic acid because that's what I felt. I was just climbing. There's this lactic acid. I'm like, why are my legs hating me? Like, I don't get a sense of joy from lactic acid. But James says, guys, when you're facing troubles, see it as an opportunity for joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete and needing nothing. That's powerful, right? Guys, valleys are not comfortable places. And I've been talking about Rembrandt and his masterpiece, The Night Watch. There are a few little hidden details in there that I think correlate with what we're talking about. If you have a look, there's a couple more things that are hidden in this painting. And I'd ask you to find them, but there is something that just stands out immediately as being really strange. There's a little girl. And what is this little girl doing here with all of these men who are ready for war? They're ready for battle. Here's a picture of her in a little bit more detail. But something becomes apparent when you look at this little girl. She doesn't just happen to be there and she's glowing and glistening white. She has a dead chicken hanging from her side. What a weird thing. She's got these talons just hanging out. Because that's what you do when you're a 12-year-old girl in the Netherlands. You just have dead chickens hanging. No, that's not it at all. You see, Rembrandt decides to take this young girl and use her as the mascot for the militia. You see, the mascot of the militia is carrying the emblem of the militia. This was their emblem. It was the talon of a rooster. And the young girl is carrying this talon. But who is this young girl? This young girl, many believe, is Rembrandt's late wife. At the time of painting the picture, Rembrandt's wife is severely ill, and she'll actually go on to pass away a few months after the completion of the painting. This is a portrait of Rembrandt's wife. Do you think they look the same? There's a lot of debate in the art world as to whether these two women are the same person. I like to believe this is Rembrandt's wife. And Rembrandt, as he's painting his greatest of all time painting, he puts a picture of his pain in the painting. He puts this picture, but not just as a symbol of pain, but as the symbol of hope that this militia group would hold on to. Isn't that incredible? Rembrandt uses the great source of pain and suffering in his life, and he decides to turn it on its head and go, what if we use this as a symbol of hope? And so the thing that caused him the most pain became a picture of optimism. What if your valley experience, guys, could be turned upside down? If you could see it in a new way. What if you could endure the suffering and go, you know, I know that God has a plan for what I'm going through. Nobody ever plans these moments. Nobody ever invites these moments. But when they happen, what is your attitude to seeing these situations? How you choose to carry yourself through the valley, it matters. And guys, you're not alone when you're going through the valley. You see, there's one more thing hidden in Rembrandt's masterpiece that I want to draw your attention to. And it's a little bit harder to see from where you guys are, but it's hidden right over here. There is a person you barely get to see, but the person has been there all along. You see, the person, they've been hiding in plain sight. It's a bit freaky. Whoa. It's not an all-seeing eye. It's the artist's eye. This is Rembrandt. Rembrandt has been in this picture the whole time. Guys, is this a cool painting? Come on, it's a cool painting. I love this picture. It's so good. Rembrandt has been here the whole time. The master artist, guys, he is with you through your valley moments. The question is, are you going into the valley alone? Are you going in with a shepherd who's there to guide you, to protect you, to keep you away from bandits and jackals? Like, are you going through life's darkest moments on your own, or are you going with the help of someone who knows the path? Someone whose hands, if you're in those hands, nothing can hurt you. The cool thing about doing this trip when I did it to Nepal all those years ago is that I just couldn't have done this on my own. I remember going and I was walking everywhere, and apart from the French people I met so many Australians. Every other tourist on the mountains of Nepal I met were from Australia, and weirder still, of the Australians I met, half of them were from Geelong. I don't know why. Maybe it's flat there, like we need the most mountains we can get. So they went to Mount Everest and they went to Nepal. So I'm there, but all of the guys, every group of Aussies I met, the French didn't do this. French are a little bit proud sometimes. Every group of Australians, they had a Sherpa. This was my Sherpa. This is Lakpa. Lakpa Sherpa is his name. And without Lakpa, I don't get to Gandruk. Without Lakpa, I stay in Landruk and go, that was nice. I can't do lactic acid. He goes, oh, you're weak, you must climb. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be weak in front of Lakpa. But that's Lakpa up there. He was always like at least 50 meters ahead of me. When it was flat, I'm like, watch me go. And I would pass him. And then I'd get to some stairs and Lakpa would just look at me and he's only ever walking this fast. And he would crush me. But I couldn't do this trip without Lakpa. The cool thing about Lakpa is Lakpa invited me into a part of Nepal that a lot of tourists don't get to see. Lakpa had walked the trail so many times before, and Lakpa would invite me into the back of the lodge where the Nepali people lived. And I'd get to sit at their hearths. We would talk. It wasn't just French people. I got to see things that maybe most tourists wouldn't have seen because I had a guide who knew where to take me. He was hospitable, he was welcoming, he was friendly. He's walked these mountains dozens and dozens of times before. And because of that, he knows where he's at, and there is a friend around every corner. And this trip, it felt like home. I was going through these hard lactic acid days, but I knew with Lakpa at the end of the day, there would be a stranger that I'd never met who would become a friend. I've never told my wife this, but on this day, Lakpa tried to marry me off. And I'm like, sorry, Lakpa, I'm married. He's like, why? Oh, she's beautiful Nepali. She can cook and she cleans and she climbs the mountains. I'm like, yeah, I've got an Australian wife. She can't do half of those things, but I like her. She can cook and clean. Maybe the mountains. We're working on that, right, Emma? I'm digging a hole. Rembrandt's masterpiece, Ryan's greatest failure. But guys, do you know there is somebody who wants to enter into the valley with you? Stop doing it alone. When you get to the other side of the valley, when you climb the mountain, we're told that you are anointed with oil. Guys, there is something about going through valleys that help you discover a little bit more about your life's purpose. You start to realize maybe this is what I'm here for. Maybe you getting through cancer made you realize I can support somebody else who's been here. Maybe you're going through that hard breakup. You could support the next person who's going through that hard breakup. There is something about valley moments that just reveals something to you. And guys, this is a messianic passage, but it's also about you and I. What will God show you if you stay the course? If you don't retreat back to the comfort of the previous mountain, but you allow God to take you further and higher, what will you discover? What calling will he place on your life? Anointing with oil it's not just about calling, but it's a time of healing. And guys, the really cool thing about this passage is as David writes it, he keeps talking about the God of he will do this, he will do that. But as we get to the second part of the psalm, David's language changed and he goes, you anoint my head with oil. You did that. For my whole life, you were a he. I came to church and I sang songs. I heard a pastor talk at me and I knew about God, but I didn't know him. But when I went through that valley and I came out the other side, I found you. Have you found him yet? Have you met him on the road? Too many of us are comfortable on our first mountain, but he wants us to know him. But to know him means to go deep with him. Let him take you somewhere and you'll discover that he's not a he, but he's a you. He's a you that wants to know you. Too many of us are riding on the experiences of other people and God is longing to stretch us because he wants to know you. And it's in the valley that you come out going, oh man, you are awesome. You are my God. You pour oil over my head. You set a table for me. You do all sorts of things for me. Things I could have never articulated until I went through this experience. Your cup starts to overflow. And is this a material thing? Is this a spiritual thing? That's for you guys to discuss in our discussion groups. I'm going to argue that it might be both. Maybe if you didn't go through that valley, you didn't realize how much God could provide for you. Maybe if you hadn't gone through that valley, you didn't realize the spiritual depth that God is longing to open up in your lives. But I'm happy for you guys to figure that one out. Is it a material or a spiritual thing? And so I eventually get to Gandruk. Gandruk was great. It's this beautiful fairy town place. It's full of cobblestones. Things are built out of stone and there's slate on the roofs. It just feels like a place from another time in history. And I'm so glad to get there. I would have not got there without my friend Lakpa. If there is no Lakpa, I get boring vanilla painting. Here's what the other paintings from Rembrandt's time looked like. They look like this. This is what everybody else got painted. This was what normal was for a militia painting. And Rembrandt decides to break all of the rules, all of the barriers. He just goes, I'm going to forge a new path. We're going to paint something different, something nobody has ever seen. And everybody looks at this and goes, what are you doing? That's weird. That's different. But guys, what painting do you like more? I know what painting I like. I know what painting I want to have in my life. Maybe some of you guys are happy to have this. But I love the idea of that. I love the idea of God making a masterpiece out of my life, breaking the rules, breaking the conventions. What you realize is when you get to Gandruk, when you've gone through something maybe you wouldn't have gone on your own, there are more mountains. Some theologians have said Psalm 23, it's just a revolving door of going from one mountain to the next mountain, from another mountain to another mountain. And some of us, we've plateaued out. And if you've plateaued out, guys, I'm going to argue that maybe God is challenging you today to start climbing a new mountain. What is the next mountain in front of you? From Gandruk, this is the view. And guys, it gets better from there. There is more. Gandruk is a town that is the gateway to the Annapurna Ranges. The Annapurna Mountains are some of the most beautiful mountains. Mount Everest is beautiful and big, but within the Annapurna Ranges, there is forest and there's jungles and rhododendrons. It's just a stunning place. But I don't get to see that if I don't get to Gandruk. And I don't get to see more of this if I don't decide to go to the next town and the next town after that. Guys, don't rest on the mountain that God has placed you on. Keep asking, what's the next mountain? I want to invite our musos up to play our final song. But guys, as they get up, I really want to challenge you. What is God stretching you towards? So much of Western life is to be comfortable, right? We want comfort. Have you noticed everyone's buying EVs? It's because they don't want to drive petrol anymore. We want comfort. We need the cheapest, the best, right? Everybody's worried about their home prices bottoming out, and it is a real thing. But we're craving comfort. What's going to happen to my retirement? What's going to happen to this and that? Good questions, but not the only question. Friends, what mountain is God challenging you to climb?